Meyer. Dave's a senior PM on our JIRA ecosystem, and I've had the pleasure of working. This is my fourth AtlasCamp I've been able to announce him in on. So, Dave.
Thank you, Luke. Awesome, good-looking crowd. Lots of unfamiliar faces, which is great. So, like Luke said, I'm Dave, and lots of you look unfamiliar to me, which is good. If I look familiar to you, it's because you might have seen me before at AtlasCamp 2012, or 2013, or 2014, or 2015. Didn't get a picture on stage that year, so I just took a selfie with Sharif, maybe last year in Barcelona. The point is that I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and it just means that I don't put as much precision into my charts as I used to. But it's been really exciting for me over the last couple of years working on the JIRA ecosystem in the cloud to go from kind of a distant dream that, oh, someday we'll have add-ons for on-demand to today where we have 350 plus add-ons for JIRA Cloud. That's pretty remarkable growth. And on behalf of the entire JIRA development team, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you've built and how it's helped our customers. Give yourselves a round of applause. Honestly, we've been able to achieve a whole lot in a pretty short period of time. Max went through in the keynote its entire story of our plugin development journey. And P2's been around for a long time, but Atlassian Connect is pretty new. The Atlassian Marketplace is less than 5 years old, and it was just 2 years ago that we announced the launch of JIRA Software, JIRA Service Desk, and JIRA Core as separate products. But the biggest change that we've seen over the last couple of years is a transition from many of you from thinking primarily server first to more and more of you are thinking cloud first. We have dozens of new developers that are joining our ecosystem for the first time, and they're starting with Atlassian Connect. And Atlassian Connect allows you to validate your concepts quickly, get customer feedback. You can ship and iterate a lot faster and try out new features. And then you can expand to server and monetize an entirely new separate section of our customer base after that. And I'm not saying that this is great that everybody's going cloud first because I don't like server, but it's really exciting to see all of you seize the advantages that Atlassian has really realized over the last couple of years by orienting more of our development towards cloud. And it's going to make add-ons and integrations better for both server and cloud. So our job on the JIRA Cloud ecosystem team is to support you and help you build richer add-on experiences in JIRA Cloud. And we're doing this for 3 reasons. First, as customers' expectations have risen, as Atlassian's cloud offerings become more sophisticated, they expect more from your add-on. And as more of our server customers migrate to the cloud, they expect the awesome features that you're building in server to be available in the cloud as well. And finally, as you develop more features in the cloud first, we want to make sure that you can implement them at their full potential with no limitations. We know we have a long way to go, but we really want to make sure that you can not only meet your customers' expectations, but hopefully exceed them and give them awesome experiences. So my goal for today is to get everybody on the same page about all the awesomeness of building the best possible add-ons and integrations. AtlasCamp is really great because you get to come here and learn from me, but you also get to learn from each other. And I get to learn from all of you all year and then bring all of that knowledge together and share it back to you. It's really great. And so I'm going to start with kind of just some what's new and then go into the do's and don'ts that our team has collected over the last year or so and bring it into kind of a best of list. And finally, I want to save some time for questions and Q&A and give you guys a preview of what's coming up next with the new look and feel for JIRA Cloud and how it might affect your add-ons. So last year at AtlasCamp, we introduced issue fields, which are custom fields that can be registered and manipulated by add-ons using Atlassian Connect. It was by far our most requested feature, and we've seen issue fields adopted by a huge number of add-ons. And since AtlasCamp last year, we took a bunch of your feedback and bug reports and feature requests. We added support for the Agile detail view and service desk customer portals. We made it possible for you to mark issue fields as required. And most recently, we know that you want to give the customers the ability to select options for the issue fields on a per project basis. So we've added a bunch of new rich functionality so that issue fields have more and more of the features that custom fields have had, so you can implement the same add-on across both server and cloud, like allowing you to make options selectable or not selectable, dynamic based on the context of the project. Another one, keyboard shortcuts. We have them now. It's really cool. You can trigger actions in your add-on from anywhere. The user doesn't have to be focused inside of your iframe. You can open up dialogues or fire actions the same way that if a user was actually clicking on something inside of your add-on. Webhooks for add-ons that interact with attachments. We know that you kind of depend on all kinds of workarounds to find out when attachments come to issues because there weren't notifications that an attachment had been added. So last month we shipped webhooks for attachments, so now your add-ons can get notified directly on attachment events every single time. And we know that attachments were one feature request, but issue links are an even bigger, even more needed feature. So we're working to support webhooks for issue links in the next couple months as well. And finally, with the release of the V5 library for Atlassian Connect JavaScript, we've been able to add a number of new and improved JIRA functions to make your Connect add-on feel more natural inside of JIRA. Specifically, your add-on can now trigger native JIRA date picker and drop-down lists, and these drop-down lists can go outside of your iframe without you needing to resize the frame. Makes your add-on feel more natural inside of the JIRA UI, and finally, you've been able to trigger the create issue dialog in JIRA for a long time, but now you can provide the pre-selected values for any field when you open that create issue dialog. So the user clicks one button in your add-on to create an issue, and your add-on can pre-fill all the custom fields, priority, that kind of thing, when the dialog is opened. And we know that these are kind of small improvements, but they go a long way towards making the entire add-on experience feel a lot more natural and a lot less kind of janky. And finally, internationalization. While this didn't quite make it in time for AtlasCamp, we'll be releasing support for internationalization for your Atlassian Connect modules very soon. So if you have buttons or page names or menu items, you'll be able to provide string fields for any of the, not 9, but 22 languages that we are supporting in JIRA Cloud, and they'll be automatically translated based on the user's language preference, and combined with investments that many of you are already making and with internationalization for your add-ons, it's going to mean that we'll be able to support all of our non-English customers a lot better all the way through to your add-ons. And considering the announcements you saw on Tuesday about our investments in Europe, I think it's just in time. The biggest thing I want you to take away is that your feedback really matters to us. Our ecosystem in JIRA is growing a lot, and so is our team. We managed to resolve 60 votes for feature requests and bugs based on your feedback this year. And the #1 input in our roadmap is what we hear from all of you, whether it's in our public JIRA projects, on the new ecosystem community site, or events like AtlasCamp here today. So I'm looking forward to spending the rest of the day listening to all of you so that I can come back next year with even bigger announcements. So some do's and don'ts that we learned over the past couple years. Over the past year or so, I want to start with entity properties. I don't think there's a single topic that I've talked about more at each successive AtlasCamp than entity properties. And so this might be old news for some of you, but I know that for everyone who's been working with Atlassian Connect since the beginning, there's somebody else who might be brand new. And so entity properties are basically simple key value stores that are attached to different objects in JIRA, like issues, projects, users, issue types, dashboard items. Simply put, they allow you to store your custom data inside of JIRA. And this is super valuable because it allows JIRA to do things locally without having to make a remote request back to your add-on service. Here's an example. So we've got a integration here with a milestone planning application, and you can see that it's just it's got some simple pieces of data, and this add-on actually can store all of this data about the associated milestone and the metadata about that milestone in the issue view here, and then the add-on can make that request directly on the client side without having to make a request back to the add-on server. It makes data more transportable, and it makes it easier to do import or export. And finally, it's just less data that you have to store on your server, which allows you to simplify your add-on at the end of the day. I don't have time for more than a basic overview of entity properties, but they're critical to understand because a lot of the other features that we've developed for Atlassian Connect rely on them. For example, JQL. So some of you might have seen this before, but I promise there's more to it this year. So this is an example of how you could implement a JQL function to look for issues that have comments. So basically, you'll set an issue property on for the number of comments on your issue. So I've got my entity property issue, or entity type is issue, and then a key for that property called comments. And Atlassian Connect allows you to basically register what we call search extractions for each of your entity property objects. So I define an extraction with a object name. I'm calling it comment count in this case. And that's a searchable object that JIRA will use. And so I give it a type, and that type allows us to support autocomplete and logical expressions, so we know whether to do fuzzy searching or strict searching or greater than signs or equal signs, that kind of thing. And finally, most importantly, I give it an alias. And the alias is what will become available to users when they search using JQL in JIRA. So basically, now that I've defined my object, JIRA, I want to know, I'm building a function to see if an issue has comments. So I find out that there's a comment on this issue. So I make a request to JIRA's API to add a new comment or add a new value to my property, and it updates that comment count index inside of JIRA Search. And that allows the user to just go ahead and use my predefined alias has comments, and I can search, and we can execute a search for your property with your add-ons data locally in JIRA without having to make any requests back to your add-on. So we've had this for a little while, but recently we actually expanded this further by adding support for projects and users as well. So that means you'll be able to find searchable, filterable properties for issues, projects, and user fields. And that makes it really easy to construct more complex queries like this one, purely based on the data that's already in JIRA. When we started developing entity properties a couple of years ago, we had no idea how powerful they could become. So we're really excited to see, and a lot of our development on entity properties is based on the feedback we get from you. So we're really excited to see what kind of use cases you can come up with for this kind of feature. These are our pretty simplistic ideas. And what's really exciting for me is that we have developers who are building entire add-ons around this kind of functionality to provide powerful suites of searching functionality in JIRA Cloud. So besides project and user property searching, we also added support for a new type of entity property this year on work logs, so you can attach custom data to those work logs. So that's entity properties, but it's closely related to the next thing, which is webhooks. So one of the most common pieces of feedback we hear in JIRA is that people are concerned about processing all the incoming webhooks that you get from JIRA. There's a lot of events in JIRA, and if you need to listen to every change on every issue, that produces a lot of volume that your add-on service is going to have to deal with. But actually, if you take what I just said about JQL searching and entity properties and apply it to a webhook, it's an easily solvable problem. So I already demonstrated how you can use those project properties in JQL, and conveniently, Jira webhooks allow you to filter your issue events based on JQL. So basically, we can say, I only want to get webhooks from these projects, and so I'll set a property on the projects that I want webhooks from, and then when I register my webhook, I use a JQL filter to only get webhooks where that project property is true. And so we're already using this pattern internally for several add-ons that we've developed using Atlassian Connect. Another do, focus on setup and getting started. When you're building products of any size, it's easy to get lost in all the features and that your users want and the bugs that they're reporting. But if in terms of making your add-on business successful, the first few minutes are critically important, because it doesn't matter how many bugs are in your add-on if the user never starts using it in order to find them. So it's really important to make sure that you have a smooth onboarding and really clear instructions for how to use your add-on. Profields Cloud by our local Spanish developer Dazer does a really great job of this. So they're using Atlassian Connect's special post-install page module, and that allows you, it's a special type of module that allows you to render a regular Atlassian Connect page, but we'll add a button called that says Get Started when your add-on first gets installed. So you click on that button, and it takes you to a nice, clear, well-designed page where you can get links to documentation or even automatically set up a demo project. It's a great way to hold users' hands and guide them through the functionality that your add-on provides. And what you really want to avoid is like the user thinking, they install your add-on, this happens all the time, and it's just, now what? The add-on, it says the add-on's installed, but I don't know where in JIRA the add-on is actually doing anything and how to set it. Do I need to set it up, or will it just start working? Do I need to go look at an issue and it's just going to be there? So giving users that kind of hand-holding is really critical. We've taken our step to enable this by adding a new enhancement. We provide a feature called to make global permissions in JIRA pluggable. So if you're already building for Atlassian Connect, you might be aware you can provide your own custom project or global permissions. And you can use these to implement functionality in your add-on. So I want to have my special permission that users need, but you don't want to have the users manage some permissions in JIRA and then a bunch of other permissions separately for your add-on. So if there's one place where you can just use JIRA's permissions, that's great. But we had a problem where users, you'd require this permission in your add-on, but nobody had that permission by default. So this week, we're shipping a new feature that allows you to predefine defaults for global permissions, which is hopefully going to make sure that when that user first installs your add-on, they have the permissions that they need and can get started using it right away. Okay, on to the fun part, the don'ts. Number one don't, more important than ever, is about being sensitive to the UI around your add-on. Simply put, users perceive add-ons to be better if they fit in with the JIRA UI around them. So if you've already developed your add-on and it's kind of got some issues with AUI, this is your opportunity right now. With the new launch of the new JIRA look and feel, we're kind of resetting the playing field. Everybody's going to have to make updates, so you can take advantage and put the new resources that we're providing to fit in with JIRA to work. And just to show you a great example, automation for JIRA by CodeBarrel does a really nice job here of following JIRA's not just coloring and styles, but the information hierarchy of the page to really fit in nicely with the JIRA project administration UI. And I'm sure they'll do, as you saw in the presentation earlier today, I'm sure they're going to do a great job with the new design with the new look and feel as well. Here's the new Envision integration with Jira does a great job also. It fits in really seamlessly, and they do a great job of mixing both using Jira's coloring and styling while still managing to incorporate a little bit of their own branding. We know for integrations, you're kind of trying to make a trade-off between conform with Jira, but I also want to bring in my company's brand. And they do it in a really subtle way here, but I think it looks really nice. And most importantly, it also focuses on doing one simple thing really well instead of trying to do a whole lot. So if you want to be like them, don't miss the presentation right here in this room tomorrow at 9 a.m. from Lucy on the do's and don'ts when it comes to designing your add-on. And just one more thing, we know that a lot of add-ons that had full screen pages were running into an issue where there were multiple scroll bars appearing on that page. We know that's kind of the janky thing that frustrates user, and it was great because we got some really nice examples that were really well designed with clear, high fidelity screenshots that just show exactly how many scroll bars were on the screen. It was actually the #1 voted bug in our backlog, and we finally got it fixed just in time for AtlasCamp. So, and just like users don't like ugly add-ons, they don't like being spammed, we know there's a number of occasions where your add-on needs to make automated or manual changes to data in Jira. And we're well aware that Jira already sends a lot of email notifications. We want to make sure that you have the chance to avoid sending email if you don't need to, so we added a new query parameter to the API that you use for editing issues. This allows you to disable email notifications. Really great for any kind of add-on that needs to edit a lot of issues in bulk. And so I know we don't have a lot of time left, or maybe we do, which is great, more time for questions. But I want to talk about where we're going. I'll be the first to admit that over the last year, we spent a lot of time on improvements to around the edges, kind of trying to make our existing features more powerful. And if you're not already building a Connect add-on for Jira, I apologize. Probably your eyes might have glazed over for parts of this presentation, and some of this might have been over your head. So over the next 5 minutes, hopefully I can convince you that everybody that's not already developing add-ons for JIRA Cloud, maybe to build your first one with the stuff that's going to be coming over the next year. So everything in JIRA starts with issues. As you're probably aware, we're introducing a brand new look and feel to JIRA Cloud, and that includes the view issue page. The view issue page is also the most popular place for add-ons to integrate with Jira. So as we work through the updates and iterations that are coming to the view issue page, we're thinking about how add-ons are going to extend that page at every step. And just as a disclaimer, everything that I'm going to show is just an early mock-up. These designs are meant to illustrate the directions that we're expecting to go. But don't grab me right after this presentation and start asking me when are the APIs coming. You probably won't even see all of this by next AtlasCamp, but hopefully in 2 AtlasCamps you will. We're kind of starting with the changes to the navigation and getting the overall look and feel out the door, and then we're going to iterate more quickly and introduce more substantial changes to the view issue page. So this is what the new view issue page will be looking, kind of what we expect it to look like in JIRA Cloud today, or in the future. And one of our primary goals in the new design is to give the content of the issue more clarity and make it easier when I kind of first hit this page to gather the key information. We want to make it easier to add content like attachments, issues, links, subtasks, and that can be kind of buried in the design today. So we're putting a big add content button right in the middle of the issue. And not only will there be an add content button, but we want that add content button to be extensible. A lot of add-ons add different types of content to a JIRA issue, and we want to train users that there's one place where any type of content, whether it's a local attachment in JIRA or something unique that your add-on provides, it's always going to be accessible from that add content button. And just as importantly, this button, it'll be strictly for content, not generic actions, but will give you, by adding those stricter rules, users get trained, and that will hopefully increase the more level of interaction that you get between users and your add-ons. And you'll still be able to get these rich panels where you can render your content just right in the middle of the JIRA issue. Farther down on the page, you'll see that we moved away from tabs to show comments and history and other types of activity on the JIRA issue. Our goal here is to make sure that everything that's happening on an issue is in a single feed. It's easier for users to parse. We saw that based on our analytics data, users pretty much never clicked on any of the other tabs on the page. So obviously, we want to make sure everything gets into one feed, and we'll be providing a richer API for your add-ons to add items directly to this feed, and also customizable filters that'll give you the option to render down that feed just to the items that you've provided. Oh, there you go. But just as important as the content on the issue, there's the context. The context is all those extra details that aren't necessarily the body of the issue itself, but they tell you how that issue relates to the project or the team that's working on it or the code that's in Bitbucket or the rest of JIRA. So you'll see that many of the fields that are currently front and center in JIRA have now been moved to that right side panel, which we will call the issue context panel. And we'll be introducing more powerful behavior for these fields and more flexibility for users to customize the order of the fields and where they show up on the page. We want to strike a balance between giving users a simplified, clear, less overwhelming view of the issue, but we don't want them to lose the power of JIRA and all the rich details that your add-ons provide. So we're planning to introduce both collapsed and expanded states for panels in the issue context pane. So you can see the automations add-on here has a quick summary of how many automations have run on this story between priority and labels. And I can click on that and expand it, and I can get the full automation history for that issue. Last thing for me, as we start growing faster, and as the number of developers in our community grows, we've been looking internally at our team and how we work with all of you. Hopefully, you've seen us engage with you in the new ecosystem community. You get to talk to me at events like this. We run and participate in the Connect weeks that Atlassian runs to, where you can come and work more closely with us to develop your add-ons. But we wanted to go farther than that. And that's why I'm happy to announce that we're putting Atlassian's newest product to work, and the JIRA team will be using Trello to share a regularly updated platform roadmap. I promise the real thing is not blank. Our public issue trackers, which are still going to be the place to file bugs and features and get updates on individual features and changes, but the Trello board will allow you to get that 10,000-meter view and get a sense of our general prioritization, what we're working on now and where we're headed in the next couple months and in the long-term future. And we're going to commit to updating it at least once a month or anytime anything of significance changes. You'll be able to get it at go.atlassian.com/JIRA Cloud Platform Roadmap. You don't need to take a picture if you just go on the new ecosystem community site, community.developer.atlassian.com. There's a post introducing it. It's pinned to the front page. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for everything you do for JIRA, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.